Hi, Winslow here, and in this video I'm going to take this C harp, a Trochilus game changer in pop tuning with the red comb, and use it to explore fourth position by playing the C harp in A minor on a tune called the Red Queen. You can see her over my shoulder there. Now I've already put out a video playing Red Line Express number 8 on the same harp. It was take 8 of a free-form tune that I semi-improvised in a parking garage to take advantage of the wonderful reverb. This song, though, has a formal structure and some interesting chord relationships that I'll get into, and it's played against a full backing band. When you hear it played back, you'll also see the chord progression with each chord highlighted as it occurs. Now, if you want to skip ahead and listen to that, maybe you don't want to hear all my talk about it, or maybe you want to hear it first and talk later. Either way, you got a couple of different ways of getting there. One is to just click on the actual video screen and you'll see the timeline, and there'll be breaks in it for different chapters. The last chapter should be me playing the tune. The other way is to click on More in the text box underneath, and you'll see all of the chapters, and you can click and go to any one of them. So you've got ways to navigate, because I know that this talk is going to take a little bit of time. Now, you don't hear nearly as much fourth position on regular tuned harps because it doesn't have a home chord. Now, if I take this regular tuned C Trochilus with the blue comb, I've got a blow chord all the way up and down, and that's our home chord for C major. I've got a keyboard over here which I can't actually hear because I'm not wearing headphones. But now I've got a draw chord. In the first 4 holes, and that's our G chord. That gives us a strong basis for second position. All the notes bend too. Right, the most popular way of playing a diatonic harmonica nowadays. If I take the draw notes from draw 4 on up, I've got a nice D minor chord. All right, and that's our basis for third position. But if I try and play the note that's the home note of fourth position, now I find that in draw 6 and draw 10. Now if I play an A minor chord, and then I play the surrounding draw notes, they don't fit. If I go up to hole 10, that's the other place we get that note. Again, they don't fit. If I go down low into the first octave, first 4 holes, I don't even have that note. It doesn't exist. I have to bend draw 3 down accurately and in tune to get that note. Let's see if I can do it without hearing the keyboard reference. Is it in tune? I won't know until I play this back. But check this out. I played the draw bend, then I played the blow chord. I'm going to play this with the keyboard. That chord almost kind of sounds like it might fit. And that's where the red tuning comes in. Now, if I look at a regular C harp, draw 2 is G. That's the home note of the G chord that we get in the first 4 holes. If I go to blow 3, same note. It's also G because it's the second most important note in the C chord. And those 2 chords have a 5-1 relationship, which I'll talk about later. But what happens in this tuning, which by the way also occurs in the Patty Richter tuning, popularized by Brendan Power, and in Lee Oscar's Melody Maker tuning, they take that duplicated note, tune it up from G to A, and as a result, I don't have to bend for it, and I get a full A minor chord in the first 5 holes. Here's A minor. Very nice and convenient. Now we've got a home chord for 4th position. Now, that's just a way of getting that note on those diatonic tunings. This is actually a chromatic harmonica, and not just because it has a slide. This harmonica gives you a reed tuned to every note in the chromatic scale through 3 full octaves, while still having a basic tuning that resembles standard diatonic tuning. It isn't identical. But it does something unusual in pursuit of that goal. Now, if you take a standard diatonic like this one, well, one with a slide, or with a standard chromatic harmonica, pressing in the slide always raises the note 1 semitone. Right, and well, there's a tune in my dumb slide tricks videos, which I'll put out later, that takes advantage of that. So you always know what's going to happen when you press the slide in. Not quite true, at least not consistently true on this one. Because in a few places, to get the chromatic scale and have a reed for the note without having to bend for it, it does unusual things. If I go to draw 2, pressing the slide in makes the note go down 1 semitone from G to F sharp. If I go to draw 3, couldn't resist that little quote from Somewhere Over the Rainbow. But the note goes down 3 semitones. Really strange behavior, but it makes sense in context. The other place that's unusual is way up in hole 10. Now think about, if I want to go from C, blow, to B, in regular tuning, I'd have to accurately bend that note down only 1 semitone, and it wants to go down 2. But I can just press the slide in and it'll go down. Right, there's some bebop in there somewhere. So these unusual behaviors make it a little tricky to adapt to, but it also produces some really interesting chords. D flat 7th. That chord can be a whole lot of different things. And I'm going to use a little bit of that in some of my other songs and videos. What I'm really going to concentrate on here, though, is a couple of very important relationships between chords. Now, there are 2 concepts that are very important in this song. One is the 5-1 relationship between 2 chords. The other is the relative major and relative minor relationship between 2 chords. Now I'll talk about the 5-1 first, because that happens in almost all music that has any kind of chord progression. Not all, certainly. If I play this G, and I'm going to go back to the standard harmonica, standard tuning at least. See, the harmonica was designed to give us 5-1 or 5-1 to sing the song roots. If I go C, B, A, what did I say? No. Start on G. G, F, E, D, C. Right? 5 steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that interval between C and G is a 5th. We see that on the circle of fifths, right? You start on C, go 5 steps up to G, 5 steps up to D, and all the way around the circle. And we determine harmonica positions, names that way as well. But that relationship going from the 5 chord to the 1 chord is one of the most powerful chord progressions in music, and it's built right into the first 4 holes. Draw 5, G chord in this case, blow 1 chord. That's why there are notes missing in standard tuning, because we want that chord progression. So the 5-1 occurs in this song. The other one, and here's where the other harp comes in handy, is the relative major and the relative minor. Now, if I play, I'm going to play a C major chord. Sorry, I wish the chords were in better tune. Now, I'm going to play an A minor chord instead. And a lot of the same stuff I'm going to play here, though. There's our home note now. Same exact scale, but it takes on a whole different flavor when we shift the underlying chord from C major to A minor. And the basic A minor scale is the same as a C major scale. So this close relationship gives us a relationship that we call, almost risking a harmonica avalanche here, relative major, in this case C major, and relative minor, A minor. And you could say 2 steps down the scale, C, B, A, or 6 steps up the scale. Either way, you get that relationship. And you'll hear that not only between C major and A minor in this song, but also between E minor and that G major chord. That is our draw chord, which itself is the 5 to C major. You see how all of this stuff tends to interlock. Now, what I want to do is go to looking at the tune itself. And outside of the intro and the outro, this tune has 2 parts. I'm going to call them the A part and the B part. And it goes A part, B part, A part, B part, A part, B part. It goes 3 times in the recording, and then there's the outro, and there's an intro on the front end. The A part just goes back and forth between the below A minor chord and the draw G major chord. And the nice thing is you can move up and down the scale using the chords of the notes of one chord as stepping stones between the notes of the chord that's going on. During the A minor chord, which is the blow chord, see there I'm using the draw G major as just stepping stones. Or if I'm playing the G major chord, right, I'm using the blow A minor chord notes as stepping stones. And the song, the A part, just goes back and forth between those 2 chords. Now, when you listen to the track, you'll also see the chord progression with the chord being played highlighted. And in the A part, it looks a little more complicated than what I'm talking about. But what's really going on is just A minor, G major, A minor, G major. That's all that's really happening. And you'll hear me playing those chords. Now, what happens in the B part? Well, our first chord in the B part is C major, the relative major of A minor. But how are we getting there? We're getting there from the G chord to the C chord, a 5-1 progression. So that 5-1 is taking us from the minor feel to the major feel, using the same materials basically. By the way, Neil Young does this quite effectively in a lot of his songs. He might have a G harp in the rack, he's playing a G chord, first position stuff, then he switches to an E chord, E minor chord, and the same stuff sounds different. So it's a common songwriting technique, and lots of songs use this. I could sit here and name a bunch of them, but let's go on because this is going to get long. Now, we go to the B part, starts with a C major chord. The next chord kind of throws us for a loop because it goes to 1 semitone down to a B 7th chord. Now, what's that chord doing there? I mean, we're going into a little bit of a strange place. The cool thing is, though, if you count down from B, we get to E, and the B 7th chord is the 5 chord of E minor. Before we get there, though, let me look at that chord. There's draw 3. That's B. That's the root of the chord. Now I'm playing a split of draw 3. Draw 6 happens to have the 7th of the chord, which happens to be A. In between, though, what have we got? That's a kind of a cool sounding chord, but it's not a B 7th chord. To do that, we have to take draw 4 and 5 and raise them with the slide. By the way, the technique I'm using here, where first I'm playing a split, and then I'm focusing on the in-between notes, I call it a donut. The donut has an outer ring, that's the split, and then an inner hole where I focus on the notes on the inside. And that donut is something I'll explore in another video. It's a very versatile concept, by the way, or technique. That specific donut actually works not only here on this tuning, it works on standard tuning, providing you have a slide, and it also works on standard chromatic. Here's another JDR chromatic. So, it's worth learning. Now, what happens when we go from the B7 to the E minor? Now, we've got another 5-1 relationship, but where do we find that on the harmonica? We don't get a complete E minor chord. What we get are fragments that flow smoothly from one end to the other. Now, if I do that, all right, that's a slide in middle notes of that B7th chord. I just let the slide out, go over one hole, blow, and everything goes up a semitone, and now we've got part of the E minor chord. Right, so we've got a whole lot of stuff that flows nicely. We'll land on blow 2, root of the E minor chord. Now, if I'm playing on a standard tune, blow 3 gives us another note in that chord. Here, that note's changed. We've actually got part of an A minor chord because there's an A there. But we can play around with that, and you'll hear me doing some of that. So, we've gone from C major to B7th. We've gone a 5-1 down to E minor. So what happens next? Well, E minor is the relative minor of G major. And of course we have our G major chord right there in the first 4 draw notes. So C major, B7th, E minor, kind of a little nudging up against the key of E minor, but then it goes to G. And this chord progression of 4 chords in the B part, it repeats. So we're going G back to C, another 5-1. Once it repeats, we're going back to the A part, and the G flows nicely into the A minor because that's what's going on in the A part. So that's kind of a picture of what's going on with the chord progression and in the harmonica on the Red Queen. Now, if you're of an age not too different from mine, you're a child of the 1960s and 70s. That's not something I like to wallow in, and I detest nostalgia. But the influences are there, so you may notice that the A part bears something of a resemblance to the Stevie Nicks song Rhiannon, while the B part may stir up echoes of Del Shannon's 1961 hit Runaway, which was very nicely covered by Bonnie Raitt with Norton Buffalo on harmonica some years ago. Either way, I hope the tune is enjoyable and illustrates some of the cool things you can do in this song, and using those 2 concepts of relative major and minor and of 5-1 progressions. I'm Winslow. I hope you like and enjoy what I'm doing here, what I've been doing, what I'm going to do, and I'd appreciate it if you would like and subscribe. So now on to the Red Queen in her full glory.